I have some shocking news for you. A terrible truth is setting in. A reality that is worse than death. That reality is that Arsenal are going to win the league. That's right. You heard the words correctly. Arsenal are going to win the league. Maybe not this season, maybe not next season, but at some point, Arsenal are on the trajectory that will see them as champions. It's true, it's painful, it hurts my soul. We've already established on this channel that everyone in the civilised world needs Arsenal to not win the league. But the truth is, I have had to acquiesce to the fact that they are going to do it at some point in the very near future. Do you know how I know? I know because history has taught us that they are going to be champions. You want the evidence, do you? Why am I making these bold and hateful claims? Okay. You want some case studies? Here they come. I'll give you a great example. When Chelsea eventually won the European Cup in 2012, Chelsea became London's first representative in the European Hall of Fame. Chelsea won the European Cup, and it was inevitable. It was always going to happen. Do you know how we know? Because Chelsea had been knocking on the door for so long that it was always going to open. In 6 out of the previous 8 seasons, Chelsea had been in at least the semi-finals of that competition. There was an inevitability to Chelsea being crowned champions of Europe. And it was joyful to watch, and it happened. When Liverpool Football Club eventually broke their hoodoo of winning the Premier League, it was always going to happen. History had taught us that it was always going to happen. There should have been no shock aligned to that achievement. The reason why it was always on the cards is because in the previous season, we had seen them accrue 97 points and not win the league. And we knew that they were resilient. We knew what they were like. Do you know how we knew? Because there was another case study. They went all the way to a European final, didn't they? They got to Kiev. They lost in Kiev in rather unfortunate circumstances. You had the Ramos-Salah incident. You had the Karius incident, and it didn't go their way. And what did they prove to us? They proved to us that they could bounce back. Because the following season, they went to Madrid, they went to the Wanda Metropolitano, and they battered Tottenham. And for that, we are ever grateful. But the case study was there. We'd seen them get so near and yet so far, and then the following year, they bounced back immediately and win that prize, which is exactly what they did in the Premier League. They got so near, they were so far, and then what did they do? Bang, crash, wallop. They win the league in a record-breaking way. Nobody has won the league as early as that Liverpool team won it. So again, we should have known. Even Manchester City, it was different, but it was sort of always coming. We could see it. The signs were there. Manchester City went 44 years without a title. 44 years. But the year before they finally won a title, the sign was there that things were changing because they won an FA Cup. That was their first silverware for decades. And I mean decades. That year, they also finished third in the league, but joint on points with Chelsea, who finished second. So they qualify for the Champions League for the first time in their history. They win a cup. They finish on joint points with Chelsea, and the Premier League title inevitably followed. And that is why I feel like all the signs are there to say that Arsenal are going to win the league. And this is why I never really subscribe to the theory that states if you don't win it this year, you'll never win it. You know, last year, people were saying Arsenal will never have a better chance. I think they will. I think they have a better chance this season than they did last year, and a better chance next season than they do this year, because as a team, they are growing. We will go into those reasons later. Now, of course, no team remains on an upward trajectory forever, and you do have to take your chances. I just don't feel that we've got to that point for Arsenal yet. I still feel like the best iteration of this Mikel Arteta Arsenal team is, annoyingly, still yet to be seen. And the reason for that is because they are so young. The average age of their side is only 25. They are approaching their peak. So many of those players are still so young and are actually nowhere near their peak, at least in terms of age. If the likes of Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Martinelli, Declan Rice all keep improving on the trajectory that they are on, they are all destined to be world-class footballers. And imagine the team that Arsenal are going to have if they continue developing, Arsenal keep hold of them, and they are all playing for Arsenal at the Emirates at the age of 28. That's a league title, isn't it? I'm not even being reactionary here. That is a league title. Another reason why I feel like Arsenal are moving in the right direction, regardless of how this season plays out, is because of the mini-league. I think the mini-league, for every Premier League fan, for everyone, whoever you support, how you get on against the teams in and around you, that will determine who you are. So, for example, if you are trying to avoid relegation, how do you get on against the other teams that are trying to avoid relegation? The league table within the league table is so important. And if you look at the league table within the league table at the top of the league, Arsenal win it. It stands you in such good stead, not only because of the points, but because of the belief, because of the statement, because of what it means to go to your rival's home ground and not get beat. And that is what Arsenal have perfected this season. Nobody in the mini league that I'm talking about here, of the teams that could win the league, have beaten Arsenal. And you can extrapolate from there. Nobody in the traditional Big Six this season has beaten Arsenal. That should actually secure you the league. The only reason it may not is because of Guardiola's brilliance. But the mini league is so revealing. Mourinho used to talk about it all the time. How do you get on against those in and around you? The 6 pointers at the top of the league. Arsenal unbeaten. Let's look at the tiny league. The 4 matches against City and Liverpool. Arsenal have taken 8 points. 8 from those 4. Arsenal's record at the Etihad was pathetic. Arteta has put that right. That's symbolic in itself. Arsenal hadn't won at the Etihad since 2016. I believe Mikel Arteta himself was playing for Arsenal that very day. Suddenly, that hoodoo is over. That hoodoo is broken. Arsenal fans who have been up there year after year, getting the train into Piccadilly, almost expecting defeat, suddenly, that's over. And if you think back to that game, Arteta was brilliant. It was a masterclass from him. His team could have won it. I know Haaland was a little bit profligate that day, but I think Arsenal could have won it, and I think he will have learned. He will have learned that his team were capable of winning that day, and if they had been a little bit more ambitious, I think they could have done it. But it was pragmatic management from Mikel Arteta to go up there, to turn into Diego Simeone, to defend for their lives and to secure the point that they desperately needed. They took 4 points off Man City this season. That, another year, could be enough to guarantee you a league title. Think of another huge game that Arsenal play. A huge game for Arsenal. Tottenham Hotspur. How do they get on against them? I just looked it up for you. See, I do the research so you don't have to. Arsenal have won 2 consecutive away games at White Hart Lane for the first time since the 80s. So Arsenal went to White Hart Lane last year and won. Remember that incredible performance by Aaron Ramsdale. The day he got kicked, actually. Do you remember a fan came on and kicked him? Idiot. That day, Arsenal won. And we just saw Arsenal slap Tottenham up massively the other day. 2 consecutive victories for Arsenal since 1988 and then 1989. And think about how good that 89 team was. In fact, that 89 team, I'm gonna have to do this, I'm sorry. I know this is off topic, but do you know what drives me mad? Never, help me. Never let anyone tell you that the Aguero title winning season was the best ever title win. I know I'm going off topic here. I know this is nothing to do with the point that I'm making. I know that a lot of you will be frustrated because we're talking about Arsenal's title win, but this winds me up and I'm going to talk about it. The day that Arsenal won the league at Anfield is the best title win that anyone has ever had. And when people talk about Aguero, they forget what Arsenal did in 89. They forget about it's up for grabs now because it happened pre-Premier League. And it winds me up. The iconic commentary is not Aguero. It is Michael Thomas. It is what he did at Anfield. It is the way that Arsenal won that game. And it's up for grabs now.
For Thomas, charging through the midfield. Thomas, it's up for grabs now. Thomas, right at the end.
Anyway, I digress. Arsenal also demonstrated something to us in recent weeks. The month of April has been very bad for Arsenal over the past couple of years, and it looked like it was going the same way this year. They lost those 2 consecutive games that people were celebrating. People were saying the title was over. They lost to Bayern Munich. They lost to Aston Villa, and everybody said it was over. At that point, there was no return for Arsenal. There was no debate that Manchester City or Liverpool were going to win the league. And what did Arsenal do? They demonstrated a resilience that is not in keeping with the Arsenal that we have seen over the past 2 decades. This year, they've won 5 of their 6 Premier League games in April, including some really tricky games. They had to go to Tottenham. What did they do? They slapped them. They had to go to Brighton. What did they do? They slapped them. They had to go to Wolves. What did they do? Professional performance. It's all not in keeping. There is a shift. There is a change occurring at Arsenal before our very own eyes. Since the defeat to Villa and Bayern, they have scored 10 goals in 3 games. They have taken 9 points out of 9. They are showing that they can bounce back, that they have the strength, that they have the character, that they have the determination, and that they have the resilience. All of those factors will combine with the class and silk within that squad to win a league title. And if they win their last 3 games of the season, which I don't think is too weird to expect, they're playing an Everton team with very little to play for. They're playing a Manchester United team who are in virtual disarray. And they got Bournemouth, fine. If they win all of those games, that will be 16 wins out of their last 18 Premier League games. When it most mattered, from January to now, when it was on, when they had to secure victories, they did. to explore why they didn't win the league title, you have to go back into last year. Maybe the Fulham West Ham back-to-back London derby defeats, something like that. There's also so much good news for Arsenal around the Premier League. If you just look at what's going on elsewhere, take my club for an example. I can't even be bothered to go into it, but you know that an Arsenal fan isn't looking at Chelsea as a potential contender for the Premier League title next season, and nor should they be. I imagine that an Arsenal fan isn't looking at Manchester United as a particular threat for the Premier League title. I think they're all over the place. I believe that Erik ten Hag will lose his job. I think Ineos are genuinely considering Gareth Southgate for that role. And I think that the recruitment strategy of Manchester United has been so poor for so long that regardless of who comes into that job, it could be prime Sir Alex Ferguson, Fergie of 08, that is not a team of champions. Whatever you think of Arne Slot, however you think it goes, I believe that Arne Slot is going to be a success. I think it's going to work. I think it's a good appointment. But they're not going to be as good under Slot as they were under Klopp. Certainly not to begin with. It takes a bit of time. Maybe Slot will get them there, but not next year. So again, Arsenal will be looking at Liverpool and not seeing them as the threat that they were just 12 months previous under Jurgen Klopp. Manchester City are always terrifying, but there is a genuine prospect of a hearing over those 115 Premier League charges. So who knows how that is going to pay out? And then who else is there? You know, I've said about Chelsea, there's no way Pochettino's winning Chelsea a league, and hopefully he's not there. Arsenal fans, rightly or wrongly, won't be scared of Unai Emery. I think he's brilliant, and I actually think Arsenal should be worried about him. You know, Arteta can find a way past most managers, but he can't find a way past him. But realistically, if it's between Villa and Arsenal to win the league, I think Arsenal would love that as a potential title contender. And then what? Postecoglou? I mean, he is getting away with it. Absolutely useless. Fraud, charlatan, media darling, nothing to him whatsoever. How's it not Arsenal? And then the final thing to mention, which I really believe is the jewel in the crown for Arsenal Football Club, it is Mikel Arteta. Now look, hands up, I have doubted Mikel Arteta many times. I have said that he has made a wrong decision many times, and every single time I've been proved incorrect. I will never doubt the man again. I have said time and time again that he has made a pig's ear of a situation, and then it is proved to be totally incorrect. When he brought in Raya, I thought that was a bad mistake. I thought he created unrest in his back line. I thought he was replacing a keeper with a keeper who wasn't as good. And then David Raya goes and wins the Golden Gloves. Fair play. Aaron Ramsdale doesn't get anywhere near that team again. Arteta got it right. Allowing Saliba to develop in France for another year. Arteta got it right. Launching Aubameyang out the squad all those years ago, sacrificing top four in order to purify the squad. Arteta got it right. Deploying Ben White as a right-back. I didn't think that would work. One of the best right-backs in the league. Arteta got it right. Kai Havertz. No, I'm not doing it. Cut. So there we have it. All of those reasons combined to make me think that whether it happens this year, next year, or the year after, there is an inevitability that Arsenal are going to win the league. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. If you have enjoyed it, please do me a massive favour. Please click subscribe. We are inching nearly there at 300k, and it would be an honour to welcome you into this community. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I look forward to seeing what you have to say. Thank you so much for watching. Cheers.